Hey Doc, happy 5 Minute Friday. This week on our series to profitability, I'm Dr. Holly, your profit coach. I'm going to be talking about the expense multiplier. What does that mean? Have you ever heard that term before? I hope not, because I thought I just made it up. When I am doing ChiroNumbers training, I talk about certain things that sound intuitive, but we need to dive in to make sure you fully understand them. Okay, so what is the expense multiplier? Now, you probably heard me talk about your compensation ratio, which is how big of the pie comes home to you. We've probably talked about your generation potential, where we're breaking down, hour by hour, what it is that how you generate revenue in your practice and what your capacity is to scale, et cetera. What are your true costs of doing business? So this one fits right in line with all those things. And thinking about your expense multiplier. Now, why am I talking about this? Expenses are top of mind right now. Inflation is going up. There's a pending recession. Everybody's just trying to, kind of get their feelers out there for what's going on. So I'm going to share a little bit more next week about what you can do on personal finance side to cinch things up, etc. But this week, actually just published a podcast on modern chiropractic mastery with Dr. Kevin Christie, going over the recession response. So it's a really great conversation. I hope you go check that out. But what is the expense multiplier? Let's look at some numbers, okay? So this chart right here comes straight from the book Profit First. And these are your target allocation percentages, or what we call TAPs, okay, in the system. So based on where you are with your annual revenue, okay, we have targets that we are trying to reach. And those targets are these percentages here. This is like the quote ideal of how you would manage the cash in your practice, okay? So we can see some trends here. Typically your profit is ramping up. Typically your owner's pay starts out really high because when you're in the early stages of business, you may be a one man or woman show, right? And so you need to be highly paid. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's like completely opposite of what every entrepreneur ever has ever told you, right? They tell you, sacrifice yourself, never pay don't pay yourself the first couple of years, don't expect to, etc. That's the whole beauty of Profit First, is that we want to flip that around, okay? So you need to be your best paid employee, because without you and your business idea, you in there serving the patients, most likely, you're just not going to be able to sustain, okay, if you don't pay yourself. So, we see that actually starts to trickle down as your business gets up into these really higher rankings here. Tax is at 15% across the board. Now, I know a lot of times people have a very low tax liability in the early years. So I say minimum 5, but the goal is 15, okay? And then operating expense. Okay, so operating expenses, we actually build in your business being lean from the beginning, and we grow it. And the reason we grow it is because we're expecting that once you're hitting these larger income brackets, is because you have the operating expenses, you have the human resources, the equipment, etc. cost, that allows you to reach that generation potential. Okay, so what is the expense multiplier? So I want you to think about expenses that you have in your business. And it's not just, hey, I have to break even, I have to make my overhead. Here's an example right here. I just called everything rent. You can insert whatever other thing you want to right here. But I'm saying, hey, if your rent is $1,200, it can't mentally be, okay, great, I just need to make $1,200 this week and my rent is covered, okay? We have to expedite that. We have to look at the potential of that, right? So if we divide it by that percentage, divide it by 0.3, we come up with $4,000. $4,000 is the revenue you need to generate in this model to be able to pay that rent. Okay, up here, again, just gave an example, whatever expense you have, $3,000, divide it by 0.4, because here your operating expenses are at 40%. That means you have to generate $7,500 to be able to clear that expense in this ideal model. Okay, so you're probably thinking, that sounds like really hard, right? Like, why would I make myself work that much harder just to pay that expense? Well, that's because we want the business to serve you. We want the business to be able to set aside a profit. We want the business to be able to set aside your owner's pay, okay, and to effectively save for tax. We have to get out of the mindset that it's just about breaking even, or it's just about, just making overhead, just making it through this next month, just skating on by, right? No, we want you to prosper. So you need to think about, you need to be very selective when you're taking on new expenses. I mean, look, we can drop a couple zeros off of this. If we're looking at even adding something that's $30 a month, I mean, how easy is it to say yes to a subscription that's $30 a month? But in your mind, you need to think that's actually going to cost me $75, okay, on the bottom line. Now, I see docs, and really any business owner, do this in the opposite way, okay? They will go and spend $75 on dinner on the business because it's a write-off. If they're out on a business meeting, when they wouldn't have spent $30, on the personal side to go out to dinner. Okay. That's like two complete mindset flips that we need to have there and have that conversation. So wrapping it up, again, down here, we are looking at more of a 50-50 ratio. So yeah, you can look at all sorts of timers going off. You can look at, an expense and just double it and say, okay, here's what that means to my revenue, to my bottom line. Okay. So it does seem like it gets a little quote easier here. But I don't want you to be having this mindset when you're down here in this income bracket. Okay. I talked to 2 business owner consults this week that were in this income bracket and do not pay themselves a dime. I do not know how you sleep at night, knowing you have the potential, that you have a, quarter to a $500,000 business and you don't pay yourself. I literally do not understand it. I feel for these people. I want to help them. I want to help them turn around. Even if we have to swap these numbers around and we have to start your owner's pay at 10%, you have to start rewarding yourself as the owner of your business, owner, operator, etc. Okay. All right. I'm going to wrap it up. I'm off to St. Louis this weekend to speak at the ACA Pediatrics seminar on chiropractic numbers you need to know in chiropractic business and profit first for chiropractors. So if you are on social media, follow me over at ChiroNumbers to see what's going on this weekend. Have a good one.